Welcome, everyone, to another edition of The Association, a podcast on the NBA, the current situation, past situations, and the present situation. Jerry Riles, your host, and of course, we're joined by the one, the only, the phenomenal one. He's only one of three NBA players to hold a doctorate degree, and we're honored and pleased and privileged to have him a part of our program. He's the one, the only, the illustrious Dr. Lloyd Walton. Doc, how are you, man?
I'm good, Jerry. I'm a little bit excited. I'm filled with energy because we finally got some movement here in our hometown with the Chicago Bulls.
Yes, we certainly have, man. And I know a lot of Chicago Bull fans, I know a lot of sports fans are excited about what's going on. Can you fill in the blanks as far as the move of the Chicago Bulls, hopefully in a positive direction?
Well, let's say this. I think the majority of us who are Bulls fans in Chicago have wanted some kind of change, some kind of significant change, meaning at the top. And it appears that John Paxson is going to take an advisory role. Gar Forman is going to be out. They're bringing in the guy from Denver, Arturas Karnisovas, as the president, and he will then select a general manager. That's good. That's good, powerful, strong movement. And it says we're fed up with the way we've gone, and we want to start anew with new people at the top to make decisions. You can't ask for anything more than that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. My bad. Do you know any updated information or background information on Karnisovas, who's coming in here? He's, of course, as you talked about the Denver Nuggets and what he's been able to do. I believe he's 48 years of age. And Lithuanian, of course, played his college ball over at, I believe, Seton Hall. But he seems to be, it's the first time in franchise history, as far as the Bulls are concerned and Jerry Riles is concerned, that they brought in an outsider to run the ship, so to speak. Do you have any inside background information you could share with us from your knowledge being around the league?
I know this, that he's highly respected. And if I'm not mistaken, he was an agent before. But that being said, you have to base a lot of what you're talking about, besides the interview that you have, about what do people think about an individual around the league. And around the league, he's well respected. So, that alone tells you, hey, maybe we got something. Maybe we got somebody who really can run this organization and put us back on track. And we envision ourselves being able to put better teams on the floor. And then at some point in time in the next 3 to 5 years, compete at least for an Eastern Conference championship.
Yeah, Karnisovas, he helped build the Nuggets into a finals contender. Center Nikola Jokic, a second-round pick in 2014, has been one of the NBA's more successful draft picks of the past decade, and he's responsible for that. It's a breath of fresh air. There's no question about it, and I think he's going to bring a different perspective to the Bulls organization. And I think, Doc, you help me out. I think we might see a quick turnaround as far as the direction and what this team was going. It just looked like, and with the exception of Derrick Rose, it looked like the franchise was just walking in quicksand, so to speak. But it seemed like with a breath of fresh air that he's going to bring a different culture, not only to the building and the locker room, but to the fan base overall.
Well, I said this for the last several years. I thought they needed a cultural makeover. I thought John and Pax could do that. They didn't. Arturas has to be able to bring a different kind of culture for this organization. Now, how he's going to be able to do that, the next job he's going to have is a general manager. Who's going to be the guy who's going to be running the ship in terms of the basketball operations and the team? And then the other thing he's going to have to do is make a decision about Jimmy Boylen, the coach. So I'm not sure. I don't know how he's built his cultures in the past, but it's about behaviors. It's about values. It's about habits. Now, if he can get in there and bring the kind of habits that players love, which is to work hard and see results, it's the kind of thing that holds players accountable. It's the kind of person that will bring a vision that players can understand and see themselves helping it come to fruition. Then there's a cultural change. You can't change a culture by bringing in a time clock and asking players to punch the clock. That's not going to work. You're going to have to bring a coach that is respected by players in the league. And this is kind of what I was trying to share last week with Sam. You can bring in a guy who's not necessarily, who may be an assistant, but every situation is different. And this situation calls for somebody who is experienced and well respected around the league, and players know who they are. You cannot bring a novice, a neophyte, if you will, in to do this job as a coach and as a GM. It's just not going to work. You're going to be back in the same situation, if not worse, and that's hard to see.
Yeah, it is. And what scares me is that you get rid of Paxton, you move him upstairs. We still don't know the fate of Gar Foreman. Some speculate that, he could go back to scouting, but still stuck with this guy, Jimmy Boylan. Now, do you see, because it's unlikely, it's uncharacteristic for the Bulls, but this move is uncharacteristic for the Bulls and Jerry Riles, but typically it's uncharacteristic for them to pay more or less 3 coaches who are on payroll. I think they still owe money to Fred Hoiberg, who's with Nebraska right now in the collegiate ranks.
Correct.
They have Boylan. I don't see them bringing in another coach after guaranteeing 3 years for Jimmy Boylan and then having to pay this coach. But again, this is an unprecedented move as far as the Bulls are concerned. Do you think the new GM will give Jimmy Boylan another year under his belt to see what he really can do? Because some speculate that, he was getting his barking orders or marching orders from upstairs, meaning Pax and Gar. Do you think there's more to Jimmy Boylan, or should we start moving to the next direction?
In most sports, if most sports, the general manager and the coach are locked in by the hip. The general manager wants to hire the coach, right? They want to be together on this, how they move forward with personnel, the kind of style they want to play. I don't see it benefiting the Bulls to continue with Jimmy Boylan in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Let's start anew. You started with a president. You did something that you've said numerous times on this call that's been unprecedented, which was move John Paxson, move him out, move somebody in. Just do the whole thing, man. Move Gar up out of there, move Jim Boylan out of there. Let's start anew. If you really want to start anew and fresh, then clean house and let everybody come back together with a kind of vision and the kind of teams that we could be proud of. You can't be proud of this team. This guy as a coach, he hasn't proven himself, and I don't want to say a guy can't coach, but he's proven he can't coach this team and he can't develop this team. And I'm so tired of him rolling up his sleeves talking about we just got to work. The work you're doing has not benefited us in terms of wins and progress. People have not seen it. They come and pay their money and buy tickets. So we want to see something different. We want to see some hard work. We want some players who are held accountable and who want to be here and work hard and start trying to win some games and hopefully compete for a championship in the years to come.
Do you think with the right moves that, hopefully we can get this thing back on track as far as the remaining part of this season? But whenever we get the NBA back up and running, do you think this is going to rejuvenate these players on this team, in particular Zach LaVine, that they say, hey, we see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it gives them a sense of hope that maybe they can go out there and start competing and playing harder.
Let me go back. I want to backtrack something that I said because I'm so caught up now. It's almost like the season is over. So let me backtrack a little bit. Okay, so you just brought in, you got a president. You're going to have to do something with a GM, and now it comes down to the coach. If to be fair, and you can be fair because they're not going to make the playoffs right now, no matter what. So to be fair, what I would do, I would actually let him finish the year, Jim Boylan, that is, and be able to evaluate him, because at the end of the year, I want to tell him that it just didn't work. I don't want to just come in and fire the guy. That's like not giving him a chance. You basically know what he's going to bring to the table, I think. And so I'll let him play out the season. If that's 10 games, 15 games, or whatever it is, it's going to be over that. As I said already, they're not going to make the playoffs, right? So you give that kind of opportunity to see the team. Here's the other thing that's got to happen, hopefully, and you can't predict this. We got to get healthy. We got to be able to get healthy, and we got to try to stay healthy. We have a decent roster, and I keep using the word we, but the Bulls have a decent roster. I mean, seriously, they have the kind of roster, in my opinion, if healthy and a better coach, they could have made the playoffs this year and really started to build on something. So here again, there's only going to be probably 10 or 15 games if we even come back and play. They have the rest of the summer, right, to come in with a new coach, right, and start their work habits all over again, start creating this culture and fitting in and wanting to win. So, yeah, I believe they can do that. And it's time for the guy to go. But give him the rest of the year. I don't believe in this 15 games left. Why would you get a new coach? Who are you going to get? Even though you know coaches, you don't have the time to vet them at this point. So just keep this guy, see what he's done. He's going to tell you what he can do. And if you don't see it, more likely you're not going to see it in those 10 or 15 games, then let him go. And the money, let me just say, they got 2 more years, I think, left on his deal. But that means nothing if you want to go in the right direction. It means nothing. Because if you don't change the coach, you might as well have left John and Gar there.
No, that's very well said, and I certainly agree with you. And I believe, and again, I think this is more to do with the COO, that of course being Michael Reinsdorf, who's now saying, hey, you know what? Our backs are against the wall. We're on life support, this organization, this franchise, a place that the Bulls have never really ever been. This is the lowest point, I think, outside of the Tim Floyd era, that this Bull and this organization has been at, right? And I think, Michael Reinsdorf said, hey, Dad, you groomed me for this position. Now is the time, because now is the time, and let me show you what I'm capable of doing. If they pull the trigger, again, I think outsiders have seen it, around the league, coaches, players, GMs have all seen how poor this franchise has been and operated. I think Arturas comes in here, and to me, I think it'd be a gutsy move if he told Jim Boylan, hey, that's it. You're done. I've seen what you can do. Hasn't been anything. Let's get started. Like you said, we got a clean house. I wouldn't be surprised. That would be a gutsy and a ballsy move if he did that. I truly believe that. And that will show the fan base that he certainly has control, and he's certainly serious about getting respectability, bringing respectability back to the Chicago Bulls organization. Now, with that being said, have you thought about who would be a decent or likely candidate to replace Jim Boylan to come in as a Bulls coach? Have you even given that any thought?
No, none whatsoever. I really want to see who they bring in as a general manager. Like I said, the general manager and the coach are locked at the hip. And here's the other thing, though. I want to go back and share something with Jerry, that if they did what you just alluded to in terms of letting him go right away with only 10 or 15 games left, it kind of sets up the assistant coaches, because what happens is that you're going to have to name one of them as the interim head coach, right? And so everybody now is walking on eggshells because they know it's probably going to be over. Head coaches want to hire guys that they know, that they trust, and they have a feel for. So this is a lame duck coaching staff. You might as well let this guy be the one to finish out. I'm referring to Jim Boylan, finishes out, because this is his group of guys, right? And so you don't have to worry about that. You can let everybody go at one time at the last game of the year. Let them go as you continue to vet and think about candidates around the league who may be prepared and ready to at least be interviewed and vetted to see if they can take the reins and get this team back on track.
How far do you think this team is away from getting back on track? They bring in a respected GM. They bring in a respected coach, or a coach who's going to craft the whip, so to speak. How far away do you think this team is getting back to respectability?
In my opinion, respectability means making the playoffs. You think that's respect? They're a general manager and a coach away. Let me say 3 things: a general manager, a coach, and health away from making the playoffs. There's no doubt in my mind. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now you got to get the right coach, and God knows. I mean, there's so many good assistants around. And here's the thing, Jerry, you might know a little bit about this. In terms of, it's like a team that represents you that are attorneys, right? There's a guy who sits in the first chair. There's a guy that sits in the second chair. The second chair doesn't do anything but make suggestions. The guy who sits in the first chair, he makes decisions. More than likely, you're looking at around the league at the 30 teams. If you take an assistant, he's been making suggestions. He hasn't made any decisions. Is there somebody who can convince you Well, maybe he's in that second chair now, and he's been in the first chair before. I'll tell you a guy who I think would be a good fit, and he sat in that first chair on a couple of rounds. Mike Brown of the Los Angeles Lakers. He was a coach at Cleveland. I really like Mike Brown. And there are others. I don't want to just say he's the only one. And there are others. I want somebody who has experience. Again, I want somebody who can be respected by the players. The players know he's no nonsense kind of guy when it comes to getting your work done and being held accountable. That's the kind of guy they know. They want to set the tone from the first day of camp, in the very first meeting. We ain't going to be BSing around here. You're going to come to work hard. I'm going to push you. I'm going to make you better. And we're going to grow as a team and get in the playoffs next year. That should be his goal. Number one goal, period.
No, that's very good, because I was going to go to the Los Angeles Lakers, because I recall when they were in town.
I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
Our staff, and we barely had one on our staff, man. And that resonated with me. That resonated with me. And we, yeah, I mean, we know the legacy of the Lakers. We know the respectability, despite the hurdles, because they had to clear hurdles just like the Bulls. They were able to find the superstars. May rest in peace Kobe. And they were able to get things back to the respectability. Of course, they have the king now, LeBron, playing for them. But you're right. I mean, I think anyone on that coaching staff would make a great head coach for the Bulls.
Well, let me say this. I'll go back. I might have said Mike Brown, who he's not with the Lakers. He's with Golden State. Okay, but when you look at the Lakers bench, I remember when they were here and we had this. You were laughing about they got 4 coaches and we got a half of one. But you got Lionel Hollins and you got Jason Kidd. I think Jason Kidd would be a perfect fit for this crew. I really do. He understands this game. He knows how to communicate with his players. I think he's learned some lessons from his 2 stops, the one in Brooklyn and the one in Milwaukee. I think he's learned some things about what he can have and what he can't have. And this would be a great opportunity for him and I think the Bulls organization.
Well, don't you think that the he's there? A lot of people said that he should have been the head coach, right? Currently.
But he's not. He's not.
Right. But speculations that they are grooming him to take over after Vogel is
no. That's ridiculous. Vogel was a head coach before. He's earned the right to be a head coach, right? So he was interviewed by the Lakers, and as well as Tyronn Lue. They decided on Vogel because Tyronn Lue wanted certain assistant coaches. Vogel's earned the right. Not only has he earned the right to become their head coach, but he's shown in this season thus far that he knows what he's doing. They're in first place in the West. So you're not grooming somebody like Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd knows what he's doing. He don't need to be groomed. He is a safety net if something would happen to Vogel. But nothing happened. They got off to a great start. They're in first place. This is the opportunity. And let me just say this. Jason Kidd don't want to sit on that bench of the Lakers. He want to be a head coach. Right. So he ain't trying to stay there to be no safety net. If he gets an opportunity to come to the Chicago Bulls, he'll come by here so fast it'll be like he never was in Los Angeles. He ain't thinking about trying to stay there. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Why would he take that role as a assistant coach on that?
It's very, very simple. It's very, very simple. It's a team that was going to be in the playoffs. It's a league team. It's a great organization, and out of sight, out of mind. You don't want to be out of it where people can't see you and know that you're still involved if you still want to coach. You want to get on somebody's staff, which he did, and he got on a great staff. So, and they're going to win. So he'll get some credit for them being able to win. Say they continue on and they go to the Western Conference Finals. He's part of that staff, so he's going to get some credit too.